going on, everyone? Hey, this is Steve Larson, obviously, and I don't know why I said that. I was in my podcasting mode. Hey, we're going to go through in this video, I call it Power Persuasion, and it's using the One Sentence Persuasion course by Blair Warren. Fantastic book. It's literally like a 27-page little ebook, but it is easily one of the most powerful courses on persuasion that I've ever taken. And there's a sentence in there, and the sentence goes through and talks about a few different things that you can do for your customers and with your prospective customers, whether it is to get them in your downline or sell them something, to actually get them to like you and do things for you. So while we talked about the 9 mental triggers, I want to go through also just real quick, just a few of the things that actually get somebody to take action and do things with you, how to get them on your side. So the other ones talk about, as far as mental triggers, those specifically go through and talk about, to get somebody off their butt, right? To get them moving, actually get them engaged in what it is what you're doing. But the One Sentence Persuasion course is super powerful because you start to create and dive through the different levels of belief with them. You actually have them going through different phases of belief because of this. Right? They will do things for you that you didn't ask them to do because of this course right here. So I hope I got your attention because this is awesome stuff here. Okay, so here's the One Sentence Persuasion course. And here's the sentence. More or less to the effect, it says, people will do anything for those who encourage their dreams, justify their failures, allay their fears, confirm their suspicions, and help them throw rocks at their enemies. There's some heat behind that. So what's cool is that anytime I write anything on the internet, or let's say I'm publishing a podcast episode, or anything that I'm doing, any kind of interaction at all with my people, especially in a sales environment, but even if I'm not, these are all things that I do and I go through to help the individual cause so much belief inside their head that they'll actually do things for me that I wasn't exactly asking them to do, or they'll go the extra mile, or I just want the sale, or whatever it might be. Does that make sense? So we're going to walk through this here real quick, and you'll notice in the actual workbook here, I've got they're all on like little puppet strings, and that's the reason why, guys. They're all like little stick figures. I never graduated past stick figures, which is why it's stick figures. But there's just stick figures with like the little puppet strings going up, and that's the reason why. If you can get this thing nailed down here, it's amazing what it does. So here they are, right? The first one here is encourage dreams, right? Dreams. Right? If you can help them encourage their dreams or justify their failures, right? Help allay their fears. Allay means to like set aside or belittle. Help them realize they're not that big. No, your fears aren't that big, right? Confirm their suspicions. I didn't spell that right, but you know what it says. Confirm their suspicions and help them throw rocks. Right? Rocks at enemies. Guess what I didn't do well at? English. Anyway, you know what it says though. Okay? And so what I'll do is I start thinking through ways to do that. So if I'm doing a podcast episode, or I'm communicating at all with my audience, or I'm talking to people who I want in my downline, I will think through, how on earth can I encourage this person's dreams? How can I justify their failures, right? How can I make their fears seem tiny? That make sense? How can I confirm the suspicions that they have and help them throw rocks at their enemies? Guys, that's all my podcast does and is for. That's all. If you go listen to what I'm really doing across the whole way, right? I'm encouraging dreams. Of course you can make an MLM. Yeah, I know you can. And it's not because it's not true, guys. I'm lacing inside all these little tiny things that help persuade people. You as an individual, like I was saying before, they join you. Most of this module has been about making sure that you are the kind of person you need to be, a loud version of the person you need to be, so that others want to actually join you in the first place. Right? And if you're like, oh, I can't recruit. Well, we're walking through that. And I can't sell. It's MLM. Okay, it is multi-level marketing, network marketing, face-to-face marketing. There's an element to that. I auto-recruit, I auto-sell, I do that, but I still have to have the same elements on the internet as I do offline. These elements are all part of that, right? The reason I like to use the internet is because it's there when I'm not. I can go to sleep and I'm still recruiting. I can go to the gym and I'm still selling. So that's the reason I use the internet. And it's some form or fashion beg you to do the same. But you got to have these elements in there, okay? You got to have these elements in there. So what I do is I when I write a headline, right? Or when I'm doing a podcast episode and I know that there's going to be a story that I want to tell, which is every episode. I always tell a story, and I'm leading them somewhere. How do I do this in my current podcast as it is? I know a lot of you guys come through that podcast, so that's what I'm going to use as an example. What do I do to encourage dreams? Guys, of course you can make an MLM, right? That's kind of my message. Of course you can do it. You know, how do I justify their failures? It's not your fault. Your MLM didn't teach you anything anyway. Your upline, your downline, they don't know how to do the stuff that is actually needed for today's. It's all stuck in the 90s. Right? That's me justifying failures. Right? 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 The fears, right? The fears that I can't sell, I'm addressing that stuff right now by giving tools, by helping people, by allaying fears, saying, don't worry, like, here's how I've been doing it. Here's how it's going to work for you also. Does that make sense? It's the same stuff. Okay, how do I confirm their suspicions? Yeah, guess what? There are small things that the top guys are doing they're not teaching you. That's confirming a suspicion, right? Whether or not it's ethical, there are ways people are getting paid. That's the topic of this module. Okay, I have laced all of these things in as much as I can because of that, right? How do I help people throw rocks at their enemies, right? And that's different for every single person. But I specifically do it by saying, look, out of the box, it's the exact same as everybody else. I'm helping them throw rocks at enemies. I'm helping you go throw rocks at enemies. So the only reason I'm bringing your attention to this, you're like, Steven, are you serious? You're telling us how you sold us. Duh, so that you can go model it. That's the reason why. I want you guys to go through. I want you guys to model what you're watching, what you're seeing me do, so you can use it inside your downline. Who does that? Who does that? Thank you. What am I doing right now? Creating reciprocity, okay? It's the same thing. So anyway, I want you to know how powerful this is. A lot of times when I say we because I was part of an agency basically that was putting these things together in a long time, and I was like, I could just go do this for MLM and teach a lot of people who have no idea how to actually market, how to do this stuff, right? But a lot of times though, after we finish writing the sales copy, or after we tell a story, or after whatever, we'll look back and use this as like the final thing, right? We'll use this as like the final thing where it's like, okay, how can we encourage dreams? How can we justify failures? How can we allay fears, confirm suspicions, and help them throw rocks at their enemies? Let's choose an element for this headline of just, we don't try and put all 5 of these usually in each publication, but there's a strong theme of one of these 5 in each thing that we're publishing, each thing that I'm putting out there, each thing that does that make sense? A strong theme. And that's a serious marketing power. It's massive, massive, massive. Like, I don't know, from the pitch that my MLM would give me, my upline would give me, I don't know any of these 5 that would help me do that. Encourage my dreams, that's kind of the only one. But like, I had to give my relationships at the expense of that, you know? Justify failures, kind of. Allay my fears. The only way they really have allayed fears is like, hey, just do what's always worked and this, and this. But the strategy they were teaching was an old one that worked a long time ago. Not that it doesn't work now, but it's not as effective. Throw rocks at enemies? Not really. Confirm suspicions? I don't even think they wanted me to think there was anything else going on that was secret, so I don't know. Anyway, does that make sense though? So go through and answer this stuff, okay? How will you encourage your dreams for your prospects and for your downline and when you sell stuff to people, right? How will you justify failures? Go through and answer the questions, and you'll be able to go through and actually become more persuasive of an individual as you do this. Does that make sense? After you do that, I kind of want to recap real quick this persuasion tactic in general. Okay, this is basically called the attractive character. All this stuff builds what's called your attractive character. And this is something that is not new to the marketing world. I don't even know if one person can claim that they made it all up, because it's such a widely known thing, and people have added to it guru after this person, but it's not something so much that the MLM world usually uses that much or has that much. Anyway, what I want to do is I want to walk through real quick here a few different elements that make up your attractive character. Okay, so I've dived deeply into it. Now let's go and let's actually fit them inside of the 30,000 foot view of how this makes up your attractive character as an individual, so that you know that your bases are covered. The attractive character, who you are, your people's ability to want to be around you, your ability to get people interested in what you're doing is something that will always be developing, okay? Finding your voice, how you communicate and develop. I told you guys in a previous video, right? Around episode 30-ish is around where I kind of found my voice, right? And then it happened again around episode 90-ish in my other podcast show. And I felt another evolution happen. And I got a little bit more spicy and opinionated, and I got a little bit more, I didn't care so much if I was offending people. And people noticed it. And so people started writing in like, oh my gosh, like, dude, what happened? Like, this is it was good before, and it was really good even before that. But like now it's like fun to watch, you know. You're like an entertainer on this podcast show now, man. And it was like, hey, thanks, man. And I felt it too. This is something I'll always be developing. So let's go through some of those things real quick of what they are. And we're going through, right? I'm covering the page number because the page numbers continue to get updated and stuff, okay? But we're going through this graph right here of the guy on the podium. You can see that? It's the guy on the podium, like, "Roar," declaring it to the nations, right? And we got this whiteboard over here on the side also. Anyway. So the reason it's a guy at a podium is because you got to get loud and proud about who it is that you are. Not who you think others need to see you as. It's who you are, okay? Funny enough, whenever I talk about my kids, I get more people who have kids reaching out to me. When I talk about the fact that I was in the Army, I get people who are in the Army reaching out to me. When I get whatever I put out there, it tracks back in. So let's talk about how to actually get this in a way, in a setting, so that people are like wanting to be around you, right? That are excited to be around you. You're crafting this and articulating it in a way so that you get the kind of person you're actually looking for, right? Because you will start to pull those people in towards you, okay? And you're like, oh, Steven, I know we get this. We got Magnetic sponsoring as the book by Mike Dillard. I totally get that. Okay, but we're going to walk through some elements here real quick of that. So I'm just going to draw a little picture here, right, of the guy. All right, here's the whiteboard. All right, here's the guy at the here's the podium, right? Podium, and there's the microphone right here, right? And this guy's preaching. Rah, rah, he's preaching. He's out there telling the world what's up. So first let's go through the things of what this guy's gonna say and what you'll say. These are the things that you say, the things that come out of your mouth. Now if you notice, each time I open my mouth, there's almost always a story attached to it. And it's that way for a reason. We all learn from stories quite well. Stories are the things that help reframe our belief patterns about the world. Stories, it's one of the reasons why there's always a story. I always think through where I'm trying to take people, and a story that illustrates that purpose. That's how I come up with my podcast episodes, literally, okay? The story is how if you watch how you guys were sold into this course, right? It's a ton of stories, lots of stories that are specifically chosen and crafted to help rebuild a person's belief patterns, right? And I hope that doesn't make you like feel weird, but it's true. Right? And every single one of your beliefs is sitting on a story. Every one of your beliefs, and we're going to dive into that here in the future as well. So this is not my place to go into it, but there's actual structure for storytelling that helps rebuild someone's belief patterns about the world and helps them take action as well, whether to join your downline or buy one of your products. So understand, we're going to call these parables. Okay? You've got to know what your parables are. What are the little micro stories inside your life, right, that you can talk about on a whim? Right? You guys have heard about the story of my wife and I having no money. That's on purpose, right? You guys have heard the story about me being a door-to-door salesman and realizing that we were all selling the exact same thing. That was on purpose. Those are all stories that I have come and said, you know what, those are the parables I'm going to go through. Start listing them, okay? And it'll have you go through and start actually writing out the different stories that you've got going on in your life. Okay, the different parables that are going on. I think it's like 2 pages later. You're going to go through some of the parables and stories in your life that you could be using to help people know who you are, but it'll also be selling people without you selling them. We'll dive into that in the future because it's really cool. There's a few elements you got to have, but it'll help sell people without you actually closing them. All right, the next thing we're going to talk about is polarity. Okay, what is polarity? Polarity is, just to illustrate it, I don't like Howard Stern, okay? But everybody knows who he is, okay? And he has huge polarity. Whether or not you know, whether or not you like his stuff, right? There's no middle ground. That's really what polarity is. Meaning you've got to take a stand on what you believe. What's funny about Howard Stern is more people follow him who hate him than like him. Why? Polarity. They want to see what he's going to do next, right? And so take a stand. Do not be mainstream. When you go and speak, right? That's what those things were like, speaking. When you go out, you're telling stories, and there's polarity there, right? I go and I throw huge rocks. I go throw huge rocks at the way MLM's been doing stuff. That's polarity, right? I'm kind of picking a fight a little bit. Whatever I believe, I'm out loud and proud about it. I do not apologize for what I believe. I do not apologize for what it is that I think is right and wrong with the industry, and neither should you. And when you talk about your MLM or your product or whatever it is, you've got to have tons of polarity. You've got to get out there and you can be like, hey, this is what's right. This is what's wrong in my opinion of this. Like, hey, look, like VC funding, venture capital funding, like going and getting a business loan, I think that's destroying America. That's a personal belief of mine, but it makes an entrepreneur cheat. They don't have to create something of value first and then build it from the ground up. They go and they cheat and they get paid for it before they even know the market even wants the freaking thing. Okay, that's a point of polarity. That's a personal belief of mine. What are your personal beliefs that you're willing to take a stand and be public about? Okay, and don't have a. I mean, how many videos are out there that are huge because there's so much polarity in them? Right? Where somebody's like, you know what? Oh my gosh, another word for this is controversy. Okay, I'm not trying to create controversy or conflict. I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing to do, but whatever my opinions are, I am not apologetic for them. They are mine, and I do not have a problem other people knowing what they are. Right? The only reason Superman's awesome is because kryptonite exists. Right? There's polarity in that story. Right? The only you've got to know, and that goes more into character flaws as well. But understand that the reason that is so exciting for people to watch and look at is because there's this dichotomy back and forth, and people are like, yes, this or no that or back. Does that make sense? You've got to create. You have to draw lines in the sand. You must draw lines in the sand. Do not stay mainstream. And if you're like, Steven, I don't know if I can go tell people what my opinions are. You'll get over it. That's fine. And that's kind of what was changing over varying degrees as I started publishing more and more and more and more and more, is I was more comfortable with varying levels of polarity. And now I got no problem saying like, yeah, I think that investment sucks. Or yeah, VC capital funding is, in my opinion, destroying America. That's cheating. You're not a real entrepreneur if you do that. Yeah, owning franchises is not entrepreneurship. That's owning a business. You know what I mean? Like I got no problem. Like, let's split the Red Sea on this thing. You know what I mean? It's the same thing. So you've got to be able to have that. The next thing you talk about here is your backstory. Okay. If you can tell your backstory, this is also called your origin story. If you can tell your backstory, and you got polarity and you got parables, now you know what to say, right? And the next thing over here on the side is anyway, hopefully it's helpful. Does that make sense? Those are kind of like themes of what to talk about. Polarity, the different parables of things going on in your life and how it relates to your MLM and your product sales. The backstory, and keep relating it back to that, right? And you're helping people realize about how cool the future is going to be based on all these different stories and things like that. It's helping reshape and rebuild the belief patterns as you go through. You guys just thought I'd show you guys a few automation things. You didn't know you'd go through this kind of stuff. Okay, the next thing I want to walk through too, though, and this is what's on that graph over on the left side. These are kind of rules to follow as the attractive character for you, right? Number one, you've got to get open about talking about your personal character flaws. What's cool about that is that every one of us is imperfect people, so you basically have unlimited number of things to talk about. Okay, and if you can get open about your character flaws, what's funny about it is Robert Kiyosaki even said, in fact, I don't know if this is in Business of the 21st Century or if it's somewhere else, but Robert Kiyosaki said, look, when you start on the journey, actually he's on Cash Flow Quadrant, when you start down the path of entrepreneurship, you will have character flaws that explode in your face and don't let you move on or progress until you address them. Right? It's totally true. As you're walking down the path of entrepreneurship, let's say you're walking down, and suddenly you get as far as you can, and suddenly this character flaw explodes in your face. Let's say you can't get up at a good time, and so you start missing meetings, or you don't know how to manage your day, or you're really good. As soon as you get a little bit frustrated, you're fine with a little bit of frustration, but at a certain point, then you explode on people. That's going to hinder your progress. Or let's say you suck at managing finances, or let's say you suck at driving ads, or let's say you're like, Steven, I'm not a funnel builder, and you don't take the time to learn those kinds of things, or whatever it is, that will literally stop your progress, right? it sucks, but it's a reality. So figure out how to address that or you won't move on. The second thing though that's kind of nice about that is that gives you things to talk about, okay? If you get okay with the fact that people are gonna know what your character flaws are, oh my gosh, it's amazing because people start to relate with you and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't have to be at this level to get to know and be where Steven is and actually consume things from him? You mean he's human too? What? Oh, that's amazing. That helps me so much. That makes me feel better. He is the attractive character because look, there are flaws. Okay, there's a reason I publish those things. It's not because I'm trying to belittle myself. That's not it at all. But in a certain light, in a certain way, I talk about some of the things that I'm dealing with and struggling with to help people realize that I'm a real human. I'm an actual individual, an actual person. Anyway, so get used to talking about stuff because that's super, super helpful. One of the next rules of this attractive character is you cannot be boring, okay? Especially if you're publishing on the internet, people will wreck you, okay? And you're like, Steven, I'm a pretty boring person, man. I don't know if I can get out there and be like, oh, like, and I know sometimes I'm that way, but it's for a specific reason. You guys have heard the excuse me, you guys have heard that the camera adds like 10 pounds, right, to the celebrities, which is why they're all skinny, because by the time it comes out the side of the camera, that adds like 10 pounds to their body based on the way it shoots out. Guess what? When you come out and you start talking at an excited level, you come out at a normal level. If you come out talking normal, you come out in a boring way. It always drops your energy level by the time it pops out the camera on the other side, which is why I go, which is why I do those things, because then it pops out excited on the other way. Right? When you actually start viewing it, it's the same thing with my podcast, with anything else, any type of communication you have, okay? It will be a little bit uncomfortable to most of you. But if you up your energy level, you are more exciting to follow, right? And when it pops out the medium, right, whether it's this camera right here or whether it's whatever it might be, it will help people raise their state. It will, just like Tony Robbins talks about, right? It will raise their state, and when you're pulling people up to another state, right? If you're not excited about your thing, nobody else is going to be either. Okay? You've got to be excited about it. I am teaching you to create a one-to-many kind of message, not a one-to-one message. Okay, I'm teaching you to create this. This is one of the biggest keys I can give you. Also, I wasn't planning on putting this in here right here, but most of you guys are stuck in your sales because all you're doing is you're selling one-to-one. Meaning, if you're not out there beating street, walking around saying, "Hey, who wants to drum a thingy?" No one's selling it. It's not actively being pitched to anybody. That's not what this course is about. Okay, the reason this sells the way it does, the reason I've sold the way I have, the reason you're in here, and the thing that I'm here to teach you how to do is I'm teaching how to create a one-to-many kind of presentation. And I'm telling you, a one-to-many kind of presentation requires that you put more energy into the camera. You put more energy into the microphone, whatever it is. Be excited. No one else will care about your stuff. All right, the next thing in there is you've got to be able to portray your dream life. Okay? You need to be living the life that your people wish they could live. And don't throw it in their face. I hate it when people take pictures of themselves next to their nice cars or whatever. Like, yeah, this is how I always am. I'm always walking around in a suit. I'm always, I hate that. Okay? But you still need to be able to live the life that your attractive character, you still need to live the life that your customer wishes that they could live, right? And it's because they're shooting a goal. It's not because you're gaudy. Okay, I had to get over that because that was a character flaw of mine, believing that anyone who took a picture by the car, like that was something I actually had to overcome. But you've got to be able. So talk about how you went on a vacation. Talk about, you know what, that first paid prospecting funnel that I built. Guess what? We went on a cruise. I took my wife on a cruise. She'd never done anything like that before. It is really, really awesome. We went on a cruise. I built an in-home gym down in our third car garage, and it's totally sick. It's awesome. Squat rack, pull-up bars, the whole enchilada. And I get to go down there and lift every morning, and it's awesome. Most mornings. But we easily, from the money from that, down payment on the house, that's an easy thing that is able to happen constantly because of from the cash coming in. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that did for us, which is amazing. Don't be afraid to talk about that kind of stuff. You're not showing off. You're just telling people. Okay, it's a show and tell experience. So if you want more things to talk about, right? These are kind of the rules of the attractive character. You must show your flaws, right? You must not be boring. You must display the life that your people wish they could live also. And then this last one here is you have got to help people realize that you care like crazy. You have to care a lot, okay? A lot. You must care a lot. And that's not usually the hard one for people to get. Most of us, especially in MLM, most of us care. Most of us are care like crazy and want to help our people be successful. But you got to display that. You got to show that. You got to show the hustle. You got to show what it is that you are trying to go get done and have your mission on your chest and be like, this is where I'm going, people. Follow me. Right? But if you're not, it's like in the army. Guys, one of the easiest ways we always practice is that if you want to take out another enemy, one of the easiest ways to do it is just take out the communications. If you want to kill your whole organization, stop talking. If you want to kill your entire recruiting process, no matter how cool of a funnel you might have, stop communicating, right? Over communicate, over talk, over deliver, it's my firm belief, you don't have to charge for freaking everything. If you put those things out there into the world, great things come back. I do believe in a level of business karma, okay? So go through and answer those questions on there, right? The first one in there, okay, world, here's some of my biggest character flaws. Be willing to talk about that stuff, okay? And I encourage you to be publishing about those kinds of things. And it's not that you're not going around saying, look how bad I am. All you're doing is you're saying, oh guys, I tripped up the stairs this morning and broke my toe, which I did. Not this morning, but a little while ago, and it's still kind of all weird. Oh, funny stuff, oh, and goofy me, you know what I mean? Like, and you're not belittling yourself. You're just being real that you're a real person also, okay? Next one on there. I need to unlearn boring in the following areas. Guys, this is a spot for you to go through and talk about where you know you're boring, right? Would you be entertained by your own self? Right? Figure that out. Right? Are you an attractive character that someone wants to follow around? Next one. Without appearing cocky, what are some ideas on how you could live the dream life in the eyes of of your prospects and downline? No dumb exotic car pics. That's what I put in there. And as the example I put, I'm simply going to show some of the fun things I do in my life with a smile on. I mean, that kind of stuff, it's funny how big of a deal that is. But I had no idea how many people are actually watching what I do, right? And this is part of the reason why. I had no idea. Anyway, how can I sincerely serve and solve real problems for other people, right? I'm going to ask people what their biggest challenge is and solve it for them for free. Right? That's one of the easiest ways. That's the next one on here. That's the example. It's one of the easiest ways for you to be able to share that kind of stuff. Show that you care. Show that you have polarity. Show that you know that there's problems out there. Share that, you know what I mean? And tell those kinds of stories. People join you. Anyway, then I go through it. You're going to list a whole bunch of parables. When I was got kicked out of high school, which is a true story, then another story, my dad asked me what I was doing with his name, right? When I was a door-to-door salesman, realized there was a better way, right? These are all the intros to a whole bunch of different stories. And I beg you, the top marketers that have ever been out there have done their own little story workshop where they just sit down and they have tons of stories and they get tired of sharing them, right? But they're what has become their attractive character. So list out all your stories, guys. List out the ones that you like, that you don't like, all the different things that you have and don't have. List out the stories, and list out the things that you love. List out things that you hate. List out the things, your opinions on all sorts of stuff. But what are the stories in your own life, the experiences that you've had that you'd be willing to share? It's a huge one. All my podcast episodes are about that, and then it relates back to something with MLM afterwards. Okay. What are some strong opinions you have, right? And I kind of went through that in a second. Anyway, so that's that module. It's about persuasion. It's about what do you say as an individual. It's how do you become an attractive character. It's not the full module. It's just at the end of this part. It's been a lot of videos so far. I hope you guys are surviving out there. But please don't move on until you fill out those parts inside of your workbook, where you can go through and say, look, this is me, world, and I'm unapologetic about it. And what's funny is there's a guy I was listening to on stage once, and he was standing there and he was talking about confidence. And he said, you guys, confidence is for kids. He's a huge guy. He won a Super Bowl. He's a big guy, awesome guy. Totally look up to him. And he goes, guys, confidence is for kids. What you need as adults and attractive characters is absolute certainty. I do not move. This is my thing. I'm not apologetic for who I am. Here are my differences, and that's the thing I'm going to display out to the world. Yes, we all have our strengths, but if we stand up and just say, here, I'm good at this, I'm good at this, I'm good at this, I'm good at this, we sound like we're being braggy, right? And it's also true sometimes with the way we approach MLM. We're like, well, my MLM does X, Y, and Z, my comp plan is 1, 2, and 3, blah, 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 okay? And I'm not telling you to go around and like start pointing out flaws with your MLM. I wouldn't do that. But with your own attractive character as an individual, right? Some of the hardest people the people I've had the hardest time relating with are the people who appear to be perfect to me. Okay? They're like, oh my gosh, that person is so perfect. That person has never done anything wrong in their entire life. That's very challenging for most of the world to go and say, you know what, yeah, I'll follow that guy, because it makes us feel like we've got to be on the same tier just to work with him, just to understand him. Anyway, that's hard, guys. Hey, and I just want to, thank you so much for this. So in this next video, we're going to talk about how to sell without selling. It's a specific storytelling format, and I'm excited to teach you guys. So anyways, I'll talk to you guys in the next module. Bye.